this is going to be a quick little video about why I wanted to start again. So there's a few reasons. When I originally did it, the bed was quite low, and that's because I had a certain fridge in mind, and then when it came to that fridge I couldn't find it in stock anywhere, price had gone up, and I just, yeah. So I went for a different fridge, hoping it would go under the bed and pull out, but it was too high. So basically I decided I wanted to raise the bed a bit. More than just that reason, two reasons really. A, raise the bed up so I could get the fridge to come out from underneath. Also, just so that I could have more storage space underneath, because obviously the height of the van is high. It's a high top, so to have all of that room underneath the bed is just invaluable space for being able to store things like that, because otherwise the issue I had was I had so much space above the bed, but that was a wasted space. I had a couple of cabinets and things, but there's only so much you can get in there. But under the bed would be a lot better, and also I'm having it high enough so that I can have the wheel standing upright, the spare wheel standing upright, connected in to the side, just so it takes up less room. Originally, the bench was along here, so along where the bulkhead was, and then the second seat was on the edge of the bed. Now I want it so that the bed stays there, but the bench is going to come across here, and I'm going to have a little single seat here just poking out a little bit. So the reason I want that is when you're sitting at the bench, so I'm sitting here, I look out, I've got the door open, I've got a nice view, or I've got the door shut and with the window open, well, not window open, but the curtain up, I've got a nice view out. So it's nicer, I think, to be able to sit and face outwards and be able to see out that way. I wanted to put a new window in. As you can see, here is the window, and to do that, obviously I had to take the wall off, the cladding off, the wall off. I had plywood behind it, so to take the plywood out I had to take the bed out. To take the bed out I had to take the kitchen unit out because it's all connected together. So I wanted to take that out so I could put a new window in. I didn't need to put the window in, but I really like the idea of having a window, so lying here in bed and being able to just look out first thing in the morning, lift the curtain up, look out and see what's around. Similarly to the window, I also wanted to put the vent in. So this vent is actually a fanned one, so air comes in, brings air in and takes air out. And on top of that you can lift the lid up, but we're in the middle of a storm, so I'm not going to do that, because at the moment this one over here is just a skylight, so it can open up when I've got the thing on, so it opens up, lifts up, but it doesn't have any forced airflow, which is, I think, really important in the van, to keep things fresh and to keep sort of any moisture, being able to turn that on to suck any moisture out when needed. The installation was fine, I did the installation okay, but there's a lot of bits which I just didn't insulate. So you look down here, this isn't insulated at all, so that bit of metal is freezing. This bit where it's got insulation isn't as cold. Up here, no insulation. In here, no insulation. So basically I've got a lot of spots where there was no insulation, and obviously that's not ideal because it does get cold and it allows for sort of water vapor condensation to get trapped and sit in those areas. And when I took the ceiling off, there were a few damp patches up on these beams where the bit of plywood was. On the underneath there were some damp patches, which obviously isn't ideal in a camper van. The floor. there are a lot of holes in the floor from when I got the van. I didn't seal them or anything like that properly, so there was lots of holes. I don't know if lots of moisture came up through them, but it was a place where moisture could come up, so I wanted to minimize that. That's why I've taken all the screws out. I've used a wire brush to get it down to the bare metal, get rid of any rusty patches that were there, and then I'm treating it and then going to fill those holes. And then with my new floor, I'm just going to glue it down. So glue down the batons with Celotex in between, and then put plywood on top of that, and then my flooring. Where I put my plywood, I'm going to make sure I mark out exactly where the batons are underneath, and by doing that, when I then come to put my my other, well, don't know what you call them, but put my kitchen down, my benches down, my bed down, I know exactly where the batons are, so I can just straight through into the baton, and then I don't have to worry about any more holes in the van. There'll only be a couple of holes in the van, and that will be for the heater, and also for the gas and things like that. It's a really minor one, but it really bugged me. So where I had the cladding at different heights, where there was a corner, you had a bit of cladding coming in like this, and then another bit slightly higher, and it really irritated me. Like, I don't know what it is, it's not quite the same height. It's maybe a centimetre or two in it, and you can see where the grooves of the cladding is, you can see the slight difference, and that really frustrated me. So yeah, I wanted to take that out so I could start that again. Kitchen, it was too big. I didn't need such a big space for my kitchen, so I'm going to cut it down, so I've just got the worktop, so it'll be the sink and the hobs, and that'll be permanent, and then I will have a separate bit which comes out for when I'm preparing food and things like that. I'll have a bit which comes out, so I've got more space to prepare food and things. But also, I'll have my pull-out table, so I can pull my table out and then use that to prepare food, and I don't need as much space on the kitchen counter. I just didn't like the wasted space. I had a big area in the middle where there was I mean, it wasn't necessarily wasted space, but I didn't need that much space in the middle. I'd rather have made the benches a little bit bigger, or the bed a bit wider, or things like that. I don't need such a big gap in the middle, because there's plenty of room in here to get changed, to do things like that, so I don't need as much room. Electricals, I had no idea about, well, it's all 12 volt pretty much. There was a bit of 240 volt, but I don't think I needed 240 volt. I had 240 volt from the inverter going round, and then plug sockets throughout. I don't need that. The only reason I had it was for a TV, and if I'm going to have a TV in here again, I can just use the inverter. The inverter that I've got has a plug socket on it, so I can just plug directly from that. I don't have to worry about that. My fridge is 12 volt. I'm hopefully going to find a 12 volt TV anyway, to have in here, just so that I'm not worrying about having to have 240. It's just all my USB ports, which were on 240, went from 12 volt to 240, and then back down to, I think, USBs is something like 8 or 9 volts. Pardon me, 8 or 9 volts. So it's just a waste. I didn't need it. But also, you can see here, well, this is the leftover stuff. So here's the roof vent. At the moment, there's nothing secure and everything like that, but I had a tiny little cubby hole just here. You had to open a little door and get in. It was really fidgety and quite difficult. Whereas now, my solar panel charger will still be out, so I can see what I'm generating. I can see my battery voltage and things like that. But the fuse box will be down under the bed in the garage area, so just down there, just above the batteries. And that way, if something does go wrong, I just need to have a look down, and if something's come loose, it's a lot easier to tighten it up, and I don't have to worry about trying to open the door, a tight space, and trying to mess around with the screwdriver. So I started this conversion in the summer of 2020, and there was a lot on YouTube, things of how other people have done their builds, how to do this, how to do that, but there wasn't a lot, as in there was more than what was needed, but there wasn't as much as there is now. And I don't know how many hours I've spent watching people do their van builds, watching people change things, put roof vents in, put windows in, do the flooring, the insulation, connecting the water, things like that. And there's just a lot to it, which I've learned now, which if I knew at the time, I would have done things very differently. Like I said, for the electricals, I just had it all over the place. Whereas now I know I'm going to use conduit. I bought conduit when I went to do it in the first place, I just never used it. So I know I have the conduit, have all my wires in there, things like that, make it a lot neater, a lot tidier. In terms of the woodwork and things, pocket holes, honestly, it's so much easier. Well, probably not easier to do, but a lot better in terms of when you're actually going to put something in. You don't have to worry about then having screws on show and things like that. But also just one thing which I've seen a lot of people do is that's the only batten I've got. So the hole here, not the hole, the panel here, the wall here, I just had a bit of plywood screwed to it. There's a little spider. Hello. You can see the screw holes where the plywood was just screwed in. And it was screwed in there and cladded onto it, which was fine when the cladding was here and down there. But when the cladding got to this bit and I tried to nail it in, it just hit the metal, bent the nail, and looked rubbish. And I didn't really know what to do, and I was just like, oh no, it's fine, it's fine. So I just left it. But it really frustrated me because I used to have bent nails and stuff in, and even when I then took the nail out, you'd then have a mark where the nail had bent down, and I just didn't really know what to do about it. So yeah, I've scrapped the plywood. I'm going to properly batten it. So this is going to come out and I'll do it properly. So I want it all to be one uniform width, which is almost the right thickness to match up with the metal. But I will be putting a thin bit of wood on here just to do it. So I'll lose a tiny bit of width in the van, but it will look a lot nicer. And the bed will probably come up here. I will bolt it in. I'll put some threaded inserts like I have for the ceiling and things like that. I will put some of those in here so I can bolt it down. Underneath I will clad, underneath I will clad, underneath I will clad. Even though I'm going to have things covering it, I don't mind. The one thing I didn't like is beforehand, behind my kitchen unit, I didn't clad it and I just left it as plywood. And when you opened up the kitchen cupboards to get things out, you just saw plywood, and it just wasn't very nice. I want my van to look nice and I want it to feel nice. And from watching so many videos and lots of other people make the same mistakes I've made, basically, hopefully now it's going to turn out a lot nicer. So yeah, thank you. I will have lots of videos coming. I'm aiming to document it all. There'll be a few things which I miss out, obviously, but I'm trying to get it all documented, put into videos, and hopefully, even if I help one person in the future when they're going to do their build and they think, oh, I didn't do that, maybe I should do. That's what it was for me. The floor, didn't even think about filling the holes, didn't even think about treating the metal where the screw holes were. Watched a few videos and people did it, and literally all they say is clean it down, put a bit of hammerite or rust protection paints on it, fill the holes, you don't have to worry about it. And I didn't even think about that when I came to do it. So yeah, there's definitely perks of doing these videos. Even if no one watches it, it's fine, it's fun to do it. I'm enjoying doing it more than anything. I'm putting myself out of my comfort zone, recording myself, making videos, doing things that I'm not a natural. I have no experience with woodworking, no experience with electrics, no experience with any of that. I've literally learned it all myself through watching other people on YouTube, through making a few things here and there in my life. So yeah, it's it's an experience for me more than anything, and one that I'm really enjoying.